All right. Welcome, everyone. Please stand and join us with a moment of silence followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Hi, my name is Peter, and I'm an alcoholic. By the grace of God, in the program outlined in the 12 steps, I haven't found it necessary to take a drink since March 17th, 2012, and for that I'm grateful. Welcome to the 7 p.m. Thursday night meeting of the Treasure Map group of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Before we start our evening, please remember to shut off or silence your cell phones. Thank you. And we send a special welcome to any visitors from out of town. Please stand and introduce yourselves.
I'm Andy Whittington.
Hey, Andy. Welcome. All right. Also, anyone who may be visiting the Treasure Map meeting for the first time, please stand and be recognized.
My name's Wayne, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Wayne.
Andy.
Hey, Andy. All right. Double winner. Finally, if there's anyone here who was at their first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, please stand and be recognized. We are very happy that you came tonight. You are welcome here. All right. The Treasure Map group of Alcoholics Anonymous believes in working the 12 steps as outlined in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous with a sponsor. There are many home group members here tonight that are willing to be sponsors. If you're new or if you don't have a sponsor, you can stop at the back table during the break. Well, you can just come and see myself or Scott, actually. We'll be able to help you out. Scott's in the back there. All right. Yeah, we'll be able to help you get names and numbers of home group members willing to sponsor others. The Treasure Map group of Alcoholics Anonymous celebrates their sobriety birthdays on the last Thursday of each month. Treasure Map home group members celebrate each month of sobriety for the first 12 months, then each consecutive thereafter. If you'd like to make the Treasure Map group your home group, you can talk to myself or Scott, either on the break or after the meeting. The current list of birthdays we'll be celebrating this month is going to be Wayne with 30 days. We don't have any chips, unfortunately, but if there's anybody else that has a birthday, just let me know and we'll make sure to celebrate that today. So the Treasure Map group of Alcoholics Anonymous is committed to bringing a message of hope to those who suffer from alcoholism. We believe this message is contained within the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and our personal experiences. The Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Okay, and so our meeting tonight will be focusing on step 8 and 9. Our big book study will begin shortly. I don't know if we have any big books here tonight, but if not, you can always pull it up on your phone too. The big book is free online. We have several announcements tonight. Welcome, everyone. That is important announcements. The Treasure Map meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous will be meeting at the Ramkota Hotel next week on Thursday, January 3rd from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. We have a brief group conscience meeting after tonight's AA meeting to finalize our plans for a new location, potentially Faith Lutheran Church on 5th and Cliff Avenue, beginning January 10th. Please join us and remember next week that we'll be meeting here at the Ramkota, and please help us pass the word. And also keep praying for us here so we find a home. Online financial support for the Treasurer Map meeting is now available. Our recurring monthly support is deeply appreciated and helps the group fund our meeting events, speaker costs, coffee, and birthday celebrations. For more details, you can see myself or Scott during the break or after the meeting. You can also go to treasuremapmeeting.com. If you give online, you can always just grab one of these tags right here and pass it in the basket. As we pass those, you can just grab it at the beginning of the meeting, so you have that there. Please feel free to take our 12-step, our Treasurer Map 12-step cards. They're a great way to pass on information about the Treasurer Map meeting, and then plus you can put your name and phone number on the back here to assist others in the program. All Big Book studies are up on the website at treasuremapmeeting.com. These studies cover all pages from the preface through chapter 6 and up to step 10. Please feel free to use these as an aid to your program, step work, or to assist in sponsoring others, so they're not just for the meeting. Special events. We have all special events actually up on our homepage, treasuremapmeeting.com. But I'll just go through a couple others here. Group conscience meeting will begin tonight at 8:15 p.m. Right here in this room. Topics that we're going to go over tonight are going to include a new location for the Treasurer Map group, support for Area 63, District 5, and intergroup, various service positions, the one-year anniversary event, and a few other miscellaneous topics. So if you're interested in being involved in the group, that's a great way to start. December 31st, we'll be having our New Year's Eve celebration or they will be having a New Year's celebration at Southside AA. Potluck starts at 5 p.m. Please bring a salad or dessert to share, and there'll be games. Free will donations will be accepted but not required. January 18th through 20th, the Rule 62 Rendezvous Conference will be held in Bismarck, North Dakota. Many of you are familiar with our friends in Bismarck, including last week's speaker, Megan F. Several home group members are headed up to Bismarck for the conference, so you can check out rule62rendezvous.org for details. January 20th, group elections for Sioux Falls Intergroup will be held at the Intergroup office at 500 South Main Avenue in Sioux Falls. And then February 9th through the 10th, Area 63 Winter Assembly will be held in Pierce, South Dakota. For more details, you can see Amy H., the Treasurer Map Meetings General Service Representative. And in District 5 Corrections and Treatment Committee that is looking for folks to help run meetings at the Minnehaha County Jail, the Work Release Center, and the State Penitentiary. Background check is required. A minimum of 3 months of continuous sobriety as well. And if you're interested, you can contact Matt M. That's Matt at mcexpert.com. All right. And now, if you'll please welcome Wayne to read how it works from the textbook Alcoholics Anonymous. So we'll read here. Till the ABC.
My name is Wayne, and I'm an alcoholic. How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order! I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. C, that God could and would if he were sought.
All right, and now please welcome Andy to read our 12 traditions as we pass the baskets. Thank you in advance for your generosity and support. Tradition 7 states that every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions.
Hi, I'm Andy. I'm alcoholic. I ask you all to bear with me. This is my 3rd meeting after going back out 12 years ago. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is the desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise. These problems of money, property, prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever unprofessional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but may create service boards and committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all of our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Thank you.
All right. We talk a lot about home group membership at the Treasure Map Group because we believe it is vital to our recovery. What does it mean to be a home group member? Here's a brief excerpt from the AA General Service Conference approved pamphlet on the AA group. Traditionally, most AA members through the years have found it important to belong to one group that they call their home group. This is the group where they accept service responsibilities and try to sustain friendships. And although all AA members are usually welcome at all groups and feel at home at any of these meetings, the concept of the home group has still remained the strongest bond between the AA member and the fellowship. With membership comes the right to vote on issues that might affect AA and might also affect AA as a whole, a process that forms the very cornerstone of AA's service structure. As with all group conscience matters, each AA member has one vote, and this ideally is voiced through the home group. Over the years, the very essence of AA strength has remained with our home group, which for many members becomes our extended family. Once isolated by our drinking, we find in the home group a solid continuing support system, friends, and very often a sponsor. We also learn firsthand through the group's workings how to place principles before personalities in the interest of carrying the AA message. Talking about her own group, a member says, part of my commitment is to show up at my home group meetings, greet newcomers at the door, and be available to them, not only for them, but for me. My fellow group members are the people who know me, listen to me, and steer me straight when I'm off in left field. They give me their experience, strength, and AA love, enabling me to pass it on to the alcoholic who still suffers. If you're interested in making the Treasure Map meeting your home group, you can see myself or Scott either during the break or after the meeting. All right, and so now, well, we only have, do we have any birthdays besides the ones that I mentioned already? Okay, all right. So we have Wayne with 30 days. So you come up and at least get a handshake and a hug and get a chance to explain or to talk here. So, hey, congratulations. Anything to say?
My name's Wayne and I'm an alcoholic. I just got out of treatment today, and thanks to Mike, I know where to come, and yeah, went back out, so here I am again. That's all I got. Thanks.
All right. Okay, and we'll be taking a short 10-minute break. If you're a smoker, I think you can smoke out the front there. You just follow the smokers. They'll show you. And then we'll reconvene, like I said, at 10 minutes. So 7:28. I will see you then. Thanks.
They were having it. So we see what we did. What? Hey, buddy. So what are you doing with your days these days? Oh, okay. Delivery driver? That was torture. Oh, okay. Hey, great, decent change in your pocket there, Dick? Me too, brother. It's pretty legit, man. That's family life. Good. See family come, or your like son come back to the holidays, did you? Oh, okay. Very cool. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. On the street, you all right? You going to different meetings? I started, and then I started going like every week to Rainbow on Saturday night. Yeah, right by RB stand. Oh, okay. That's a beautiful church. I tell you what, it's huge. Yeah. If I didn't know right where to go when I walked in, I'd probably get lost. Which is cool. They got the like television, like TVs up or whatever. You just walk in and tell you things that are going on. Every time I walk in, it's just yeah. Geez, they take up like a whole block already. Yeah. The meetings downstairs though, it's huge. It's called, I think, the Fellowship Hall. Man, it's beautiful down there. Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't think I'd ever been in like the bathrooms. You can walk from one side or walking from the other side. So I got lost going through there. I went in one door and then it said X out. So I went out the wrong side. I was looking around. I was like, this is not familiar for me. Oh, okay. What are they rent out to? Oh, okay.
Well, you wrote down for someone ice paper? Yeah, you might, one of these might be yours.
Yeah.
And you're telling your mom your sponsor's not doing anything, but you're not doing the work. And he's calling me up and he's like, well, should we get together and meet? I'm like, what you get down? Of course, he's like, well, I mean, I have to work today. Yeah. Like, say, you work 8 hours a day and you are too tired to write down things for
They don't really sell or what? Oh.
This I told him, I said 20 minutes a day, we meet next week.
Yeah.
I don't know history, but I got a bunch of pretty text in that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can name your top 10. Right.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Usually there's books that I don't want.
I'll say yes. Who's got a blank one?
Me.
Fill it up.
They make me feel uncomfortable. It's gonna make you do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have to take it.
That was a great one. For a little while on Facebook. Reach out to them, send an email.
Well, I don't know. It's probably not important at all, but I just don't.
But he
Yeah, I have to be here, you know.
Yeah. But,
Especially when I've been doing it since.
I'm actually out in the city. Oh, you are? Yeah, I brought my nephew down so they can spend some time with him. I'm actually part of a youth group out there called the Ellsworth Group. And we're going together, and they've been there for about 4 or 5 years.
I'm not going to do what I'm well, before you make this
they're good guys.
Yeah, I've only been like, this is my 3rd meeting right here. Yes. I've been to 2 Friday meetings and now this one. I snowed in, so.
Yeah. I heard you did a card.
Yeah,
She wants to. I mean, that's they will never get it. That's the thing. Like, obviously, you know the program.
I've been talking about a while when we first moved out.
That's like
So I'll go out. I gotta work.
I'm tired. 9:30. I'm gonna go home.
I'm probably gonna go for food and Here's I follow this motor. Yeah.
So after you and your bride. Oh, that was easy. My wife's daughter.
There you go.
Someone you could deal
You need no introduction.
Yeah. Give me a hug, will you?
All right. Absolutely. Me too. Need a book? Or you good?
Don't I need the book?
Yeah.
Pete? Is that? It's on? Okay, good. Okay, gang, why don't we get going here? There you go. Thank you. Excellent. Do we want to leave that? You want to leave that open, or you want to shut that? Doesn't matter to me. I don't. Either way, I'm fine. Well, I gotta tell you, you guys are the gamers of this group, man. Holy cow, fighting this weather, coming out, doing this. So thank you for being here. This is great. My name is Michael Donnelly. I'm an alcoholic. I want to welcome Wayne and Andy and anybody else who's relatively new. I know you've been with us a few times, brother, but just really means a lot to us that the new people are here because, you know, that's what this meeting is about. That's what the Treasure Map meeting is about, right? It's about reaching out to people who need help, just like we needed help, you know? And there's no level of hierarchy here, right? We're all the same. We're all just fellow travelers, fellow journeyers. Nobody's higher, more exalted, smarter, or anything else than anybody else, right? We're just trying to walk this thing. And, you know, as Pete read, you know, we believe that the message of Alcoholics Anonymous is in that book and also in our personal lives as we live that book, right? And when those two things come together, when the fellowship and the actual program of Alcoholics Anonymous come together, miraculous things take place, right? I mean, for those of you who don't know Robert, like the fact that Robert is even capable of forming a full sentence, that is a miracle in itself, right? Right? And if you look at Robert, he'll look back at you, right? I mean, and he sells cars, honestly. And, but you know, it is fascinating to me, right? To just see us try this thing. And we're coming up on a year here, February 1st. And I want to thank you all for being a part of this thing. And tonight the weather's bad. I got a boatload of texts from people apologizing they can't make it. It's just, but I just appreciate everybody who is here making the effort. And even those folks who didn't try, right? Maybe they're listening to us on the line, right? But really appreciate that. So just wanted to acknowledge that the effort is certainly appreciated. So tonight we're going to talk about the Big Book study in step 8 and 9. Right? And the questions for some of these things are on our website. If you're looking for an understanding of the Big Book, if you're looking for an understanding of what does this literature actually mean, we have no idea if the Big Book study that we use is the right one or not. It's simply a Big Book study, right? But it has helped countless people. It's basically the format that we have used for, I don't know, the last 15 or 20 years in producing our Big Book studies, which we've done over and over and over and over again here in Sioux Falls and around the upper Midwest. And all it is just a simple Q&A, just a question and an answer, question and an answer. And the thing is, if I know what the Big Book says, then I can make a determination as to a couple of things. Number one, am I actually doing it? Or am I just talking about it? Number two, do I even want to do it? Right? Because I remember when I first looked at those steps on the wall, they seemed a little overwhelming to me, right? I come in, I think alcoholism is about drunkenness, and if I can just not drink, life should get a lot better. So I didn't drink for a few months, and life got a lot worse, right? And I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I didn't know what the heck alcoholism was. And I'm looking at this wall, and it's saying I got to make amends. The way I know what it says, but I'm reading it my own way, right? So I'm looking at this and I'm going, make amends. Like, no, I haven't even completed a 5th step yet. I haven't even written down those things I want to take to the grave with me in 4. I haven't even made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. And I'm looking at 9 going, never. Like, absolutely never. You know, maybe my mom, because I know she will forgive me because she's morally obligated to do so, right? Maybe my sister, because, you know, she's a wonderful person, right? But like, that's it. Like, I am not, there's a lot of things like my wife isn't hearing about. There's a lot of things that like my boss isn't hearing about. You know, there's a lot of things that my friends aren't hearing about because I don't want them to know what I'm like on the inside. And then I'm wondering why I'm afraid all the time. I'm walking around with this mask on, trying to pretend to be something I'm not. And my biggest fear is that you'll find out who I am. And why am I afraid of that? Because if you see who I am, I know what you're doing. You're leaving. Because I wanted to be away from me. I certainly couldn't expect someone else who isn't me to want to be around me when I want to leave me. They didn't like me at all. And why should I? So I got this guy, Joe, and most of you have heard the story before, but we're sitting in this coffee shop, and he kind of runs through the rigmarole with me. And, you know, we got some new people here tonight, so I think it's important that we just don't start at 8 because the program doesn't start there. Right? There's a process. And sometimes we compartmentalize this thing so much that it becomes sort of disfigured in a way, right? So there certainly are 12 steps. There's no question about it. But there are also, depending on how you slice your pizza, 12 slices in a piece of pizza, right? But it's a pizza. It's one piece until you cut it, right? And for a fat guy like me from Chicago, I know my pizza, right? And that is a whole pizza, right? And so when we start saying, I'm just going to have the sausage slice, and I'm just going to have the cheese slice, and I'm just going to have the pepperoni slice, whatever, we're missing it. We're wondering why we're not finding peace in our life. We're wondering why we can't get contentment. We're wondering why we're still pretending to be something we're not, while we're walking around lying to everybody. And it's because we're choosing. We're choosing what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And so it always bodes this question, like, why ever? Seriously, this is an honest question. It's one I posed to my sponsor. It's one that I think a lot of people have in their hearts, whether they bring it up or not, I don't know. Why would you ever do 8 and 9? Dead serious. Like, that's an honest question. Like, if something happened to you 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago and you got away with it, and we're supposed to be sane now, right? Like, why would a sane person, after getting away with something that's 5, 10, 20 years old, why the hell would they ever bring that up again? Like, why would you do that? And we can all sit here and go, well, because it means we're a good person. Like, come on, seriously, why would you do it? Because truthfully, if I didn't think there were good reasons to do it, if I didn't think there was something actually tangible in doing it, I wouldn't advocate anybody doing it. Why would you do that? It's a good question, I think. And I think the only way to get to the answer of why do 8 and 9 is to really look at 6 and 7. And the only reason to turn your will and your life over to the care of God in that manner that 6 and 7 prescribes is because of 4 and 5. And why would you ever look at that stuff unless you needed to get rid of it because you actually planned on taking step 3? Why would you ever take step 3? Because 1 and 2 are conclusions that my life brought me to. Right? Step 1 drove me to my knees, and when I was down there, I found step 2. So step 1 says something like this: there's 3 problems with me. And if you're an alcoholic like me, then maybe you have those same 3 problems. But I don't have 2, and I don't have 1, and I don't have 7. I got 3. And the first one is this physical allergy. I got a body that is, for some reason, allergic to alcohol. That when I put booze inside of me, something happens inside of me that makes me want to drink more. I don't ever want to drink less when I start drinking. 1 will always lead to 2, 2 will always lead to 3, 3 will always lead to 4, ... all the way. That's how I am as a person, right? And that, of course, is not normal. That is not how normal people drink, right? Now, it's a shame for those people because they really don't know what they're missing, right? But the reality of it is that is the truth, right? That is the truth for me. And why do I know that? Because when I wanted to quit, especially in my latter days, I would rationalize going out to have 1 or 2 and I'd end up insanely drunk. I would rationalize and talk myself into just going out and having a couple. Like, really? Really, Mike? You're never going to drink anything again? Like, till the day you die? Really? Now, I'm 24 years old. I have just broken up with my fiance. There is no hope for marriage at this point or anything like that, right? And the thoughts coming into my head is, when you have your daughter, you're not going to toast her on her wedding day? I'm like so far from, I'm like years and years away from even having that be some crazy thought. Plus, I got to have the kid, and then she's got to at least be 18. So we're talking like 25-year window. I'm down the road, and I'm going, can't even toast your daughter at her wedding. This is ridiculous. I mean, but that's how my brain works. My brain never said to me, if you drink, you're going to say things terribly to the people you love. You're going to hurt them badly. It never told me that. It never told me you're going to get in trouble with the police again. It never told me that. It never said you're going to dig yourself deeper into very, very little integrity in your life. Never said that. You're going to hate yourself. It didn't say that. It said pretty much the opposite, right? And it would slowly sort of walk me into having 1 or 2. And it never told me to get drunk, or rarely, maybe on like New Year's or St. Patrick's Day or something like that. But mostly it just said, go out and have a few. Go out and have a few. Don't do those things you did last night. Like, just relax. You're not a moron, right? You can go out and have a couple and you'll be fine. My head told me that story over and over and over. Told me that for 12 years. Told me that for 12 years. So I got that. I got the body that's sick. I got the mind that lies to me. And in AA, we don't do anything about those two because we're not physicians. We can't heal the body, and we aren't psychologists. We cannot, or psychiatrists. We cannot heal the brain. So what do we do here? Well, we're fellow travelers, right? We're journeymen. We walk shoulder to shoulder this journey together, right? We fix the broken soul, that third part. We fix the spiritual malady as we walk along this road together. And what's the medicine for the broken soul? It's the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Step 1 is a conclusion that I came to. My behavior proved to me I could not drink like normal men. I don't need to drink again to prove that again. I know that. That is true for Mike Donnelly. Right? My experience tells me my head will lie to me if I don't practice these principles. And it won't just lie to me about booze. It'll lie to me about everything. It'll tell me that my image to you is the most important thing. Therefore, make something up. Be something important to them. Whatever they think is important, be that. Right? Why? I don't know why. It's like all I am is the receiver of these thoughts. Right? You ever have a thought in your head and you're stunned that you even thought that? Like, that's weird that in my head, I could be stunned at my own thoughts. It's my head. Right? Maybe my head isn't just the receiver or a producer of those thoughts. Maybe it's more of a receiver of those thoughts. But whatever it is, when I'm stunned at my own thoughts, it tells me something's probably wrong with my thoughts. Because why would I be shocked at what's in my own head? That's a little weird, right? So we work out our solution on the inside, not in the bottle, not even trying to stay away from it, although we certainly advocate that. But nowhere in our book does it say anything about white knuckle sobriety. Right? Doesn't. Certainly take white knuckle sobriety. Like, that's okay. But don't stop there, because it won't ever get less white if you stop there. Right? Keep going. That broke me. The realization that I, for some reason, can't digest alcohol in a rational way, that my body and my mind are out to get me. There's an old boy in AA's out in California. His name is Cliff Roach. When Cliff does this, he says, I have met the enemy, and he lives right here. I get that guy. I get that guy. So if I can't fix me with my brain and I can't fix me with my body, then I got to find something that can. And how do I know something that can fix me exists? Because I look at you. Right? Because I look at Dale. Because I look at Scotty. Because I look at Pete, Mark, Todd. I look at you guys. And I go, something is working in your life. And possibly that thing, whatever's working in yours, can possibly work for mine. Just possibly. Right? But see, my head's against that too. So it starts telling me we're different. It starts telling me things like, well, you know, Dale's learned the book. Well, you know, Scotty's this, and you know, Joe's this, and you know, Peter's this, and it starts telling me stories about why we're different again. How it won't work for me. It'll work for you, but it won't work for me. See, if your situation was like mine, it wouldn't have worked for you either. But your situation is like yours, so it will work, but therefore it won't work for me because my situation is mine, and mine doesn't work in yours. And somehow I walk away from that going, that makes sense. Now, I haven't even tried it. I might have talked about it. I might have studied it. I might have hung out and discussed it. I might have been to 1,000 meetings on it, but I never tried it alone with me actually doing it. And I'm drawing conclusions about its effectiveness in my life without ever trying it. It's crazy. So we get to this place after these conclusions in 1 and 2. That I can't fix me, and that maybe there's something out there that can fix me because that thing seemingly is fixing you, or at least in the process of fixing you. And maybe that thing will work for me. And step 3 simply says this: I'm going to try to do everything I can to get all of my stuff out of the way, so whatever that thing is that's helping you possibly will help me. That's it. That's all it is. And it looks like now we start slicing the pizza. Here's slice 4, here's slice 5, here's slice. It's not. One piece. It's just broken down into little segments. Instead of looking at it like a bunch of different single individual pieces, look at it maybe more like one pizza with toppings on it, right? Sausage, pepperoni, it's all the pizza, but it's not individual slices. See, because if I do 4 and 5, the program doesn't help me at all. If I do 4, 5, and 6, the program doesn't help me at all. If I do 4, 5, 6, and 7, the program doesn't help me. It's one piece. It's a process. It's a process of 4 through 9 that is chronically repeated in 10 and 11 that brings about the change. 4 through 9 is the process, not 4. And then 8 months later, 5. And then, 25 times in absolute agony on my knees, 6 and 7. And no work in 8 and 9. That's not the process, right? So I make this decision that to turn my will and my life over to this thing that's helping you, that might possibly help me. And I grab a hold of you. And I share this journey in 4. And I look at all the things that I admit, not that you even know about, but that I admit are blocking me from perhaps that thing helping me. And I know what they are. Someone says resentments, I go, a few. But only for people that really deserve me to hate them. Those are the only people that I resent, right? We start writing all that down. And we start talking about fear. And I was so afraid of fear, I didn't think I had fear. That's how afraid I was. Right? And I start writing these fears down. Oh my gosh, what are you going to think of me if you hear this stuff? My sex conduct. Talked a few weeks back about that's not only about sexual activities. It's really about how I walk around the planet as a man, right? And if I'm afraid and I'm a man, I'm compensating for that. If I'm afraid and I'm a woman, I'm compensating for that in all kinds and all myriads of ways, right? All kinds of myriads of ways. You want to see my resume? You want to see how cool I am? Right? I don't know if you know this or not, but I got a big bonus check last month. Now, whether I did or didn't doesn't matter. What matters is that you think I did. Right? All these things, all these crazy things that we do, right? And we write all this stuff down. And 6 and 7, as Megan just, I think, laid out so beautifully last week, it's a bit of a dance, right? Certainly I can't change my heart, or I would have by now. At the same time, God can't change my heart without my cooperation. I can tell him no all day long. I've done that for years. Right? Pray, no changed behavior, no changed heart. Crushed by my own ego, crushed by my own selfishness, crushed by my own sin or defects of character or whatever you want to call that. And then I'm on my knees again going, please God help me, please God help me, please God help me. And I get some level of consolation and I get up off my knees and I go behave exactly the same way I just did that brought me to my knees again. Anybody have that experience? Probably not, I know, just me, right? Why? What has happened? I don't know how to change. I don't know how to change. And I'm too afraid to ask you how to change. How did you do it? Because I think you're all perfect. And then there's me. Or I think you've all done it pretty well. And then there's me. Or what's worse is I think none of you have done it. It's just something we talk about and none of us actually do it. None of those things are true. So we begin with this deal after 6 and 7, where we get up off our knees and we grab a piece of paper and we go back to that 4th step and we write down the names of the people on that 4th step, the institutions on that 4th step, maybe the principles on that 4th step. We write an 8th step. We get back on our knees and we start asking God for what we don't have, which is the willingness to make these things right. And step 9 without step 8 is as anemic as anything. It's like being sober and drinking. They don't go hand in hand. You can't do 9 without 8. And it's wrong to pole vault from 7 to 9 without doing 8. I was taught a long time ago by some really long-term quality spiritual guys in recovery that this sentence, and it's really, it provokes a lot of thought in me when I read the big book. And it was this: Bill Wilson never asks us to pray for something that's unavailable to us. The only reason I don't have it is because I don't want it or I haven't prayed for it. So willingness to make amends is something that we pray for. If I don't have the willingness to make the amends, it's either because I'm not praying for it or because I am, but I really don't want it. I've done that before. Dear God, make me humble. No, make me more humble than all of them, which is really pride, right? So it's this goofy thing, right? It's like this greased pig you can't hang on to, you know, it slides through your fingers all the time. We pray for this, we pray for what we don't have. When we get into this, it sort of takes off on us, right? I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I was really afraid of step 9. I just want to be respectful of time here. I was really afraid of step 9, and it was because of the things I had done, and I just shared those with someone in step 5, and it just felt odd, right? Felt odd, but I believed what the book said. I'm not even sure why I believed what the book said. I just did. I read it and I was like, I think this stuff is true. And truthfully, there was nothing in the big book that my mom, my dad, my grandparents, teachers in my schools had ever taught me. It was the same stuff. It was identical. And so maybe that's what gave me some sort of level of appreciation for it, that I was so afraid of it. I don't know. But I knew what they were written. I knew what they had written was true. And so as we study the big book in step 8 and 9, and we go through this process, right? Like, it's a pretty easy process, at least on paper. So the first thing the book talks about are these different people that we hate. How do we go to people that we used to hate? Right? And it talks about, you know, don't lead in with the God thing. Just be calm, like go to them, admitting your fault. It says they're going to be more impressed with a demonstration than in talks of spiritual matters. They want to see it. They want to see it. Anybody in this room, or maybe that's listening to us tonight, or maybe somebody that's listening to us a few days from now, ever get slighted by somebody? I think the answer is yes. Can't be alive unless you got a short end of this bargain on some deal, right? Maybe some of us got a lot of that. Maybe some of us got a lot of that from people we trusted, or authority figures in our life, or God forbid, even religious figures in our life. And maybe they came to us, maybe, and said, look, I'm really sorry about that. And then they turn around and did it again. Anybody have that deal go down? I've had that deal go down. Right? How much confidence do I have in that guy next time? Right? Not much. The big book, as it rolls out and as it explains these things, it talks about different things. It talks about creditors, domestic problems, all kinds of things through there, but there's themes that run through each one of those sections. And as best I can figure out, through the help of people who were here before me, specifically one guy named Father Rock. He was an old timer up in northern South Dakota. He just passed through great information to me. And he says there's 4 parts to an amend. And as I read the book, that's there. That's 100% there. And the first part is an act of confession. So if I do something wrong to Dale, and I never go to Dale and say, Dale, I did this wrong to you, how do we even begin an amends conversation? Right? An act of confession. The second thing is an act of contrition. Dale, I did this wrong to you, and I really feel bad about it. Notice I haven't used the word sorry yet. Right? How many times have we used the word sorry? Like a billion in our life, right? That was before we even got to AA, right? When someone comes to you and they're like, yeah, dude, I'm really sorry about that. Anyways, you want to watch something on Netflix? Like, that just doesn't land, right? There's nothing heartfelt about that. But you probably, if you've had something bad happen to you or somebody hurt you in some way, you've seen authentic contrition in the eyes of people that have made amends to you at some level. Whether you called it that stuff or not, I don't know. But you knew when someone was snowing you and when they were authentically sorry. Even if they were just sorry they got caught, like you could see the remorse. That's what we're talking about here. Right? That it's real. Act of contrition. I'm really sorry about that. Shouldn't have done that. I feel awful about it. I wish I hadn't done that. There's a million ways to say it based on whatever situation you're in. The next thing is an act of restitution. And restitution is simply giving justice to the circumstance. That's all that is. Giving justice to the circumstance. If I stole $20 from Dale, I don't pay Dale $450. I give him $20. I also don't give him $19.95. I give him $20. Right? That's what I give him. And the last thing is an act of repentance. I got to stop stealing from Dale. It has to end. Stop. Right? Now, things like stealing or big things like that sometimes are much easier to stop doing than the small minor infractions we have in our everyday lives. Right? If we're married and we love people, it's very likely that we've said curt, short, ignorant, maybe selfish or rude things to the person we love. And if we go up to them and say, hey, baby, I shouldn't have said that. I really feel bad about it. I shouldn't speak to you like that. I'm sorry. What can I do to make it up? And she says, vacuum the living room. We grab the vacuum out, play around with the Hoover for 15 minutes, shove it back in the closet, right? It's likely that that's probably going to happen again. Doesn't have to happen again, but it's likely, right? So what do we do about that? We go back. That's what the 10th step is for. That's what the 10th step is for. To guard us from these things when they occur, right? Because I'm an imperfect person and my emotions can get the best of me on occasion, and sometimes I can do things like that. It's unlikely that I can blame the inside of me. You know, if I was stealing from a convenience store, right? And then I go to work and I take all the petty cash out of the safe. Like, that's different than saying to my wife, is dinner ready? Or why didn't we get this done? Or what's the deal on Christmas? Like, I've asked you 4 times, like being short or curt, right? Those are different offenses, right? Tracking what I mean there. So we have the 10th step to sort of keep us moving, but we have to change. There has to be some level of change, right? It's impossible to be perfect. But in our 12 and 12, as Joe talked about, if you guys were here for Joe G's talk at Our Lady of Guadalupe 2 weeks ago, and if you haven't, you should listen to the tape. It's a good talk on step 7. He says, although perfection is just about out of our reach, he quotes Bill Wilson, and he says, but perfection is certainly our plumb line. We need to aim at that. And Bill Wilson talks about that. Sandy Beach, one of my favorite AA speakers, guy who's sober 55 years. He was absolutely one of my heroes in recovery. Said it's interesting how Bill did that. So in the big book, he talks about progress, not perfection, right? And then suddenly in the 12 and 12, after 15 years of doing this thing, his understanding has grown under the tutelage of a guy named Father Dowling. And he says, no, I'm not going to erase that. I'm going to leave that in there. But in the 12 and 12, he writes progress toward perfection. That's different. That's better. That's a higher standard even, right? He doesn't say you'll be perfect. He says progress toward perfection. And that's really what we're looking for. That is truly what we're looking for. So once we get sort of an understanding about how we're supposed to approach the people that we owe amends to, right? And we start going out and we start making these actual amends. We start actually applying those principles to our life. And I was taught that just because someone meets someone in the mall doesn't mean that's how I'm supposed to make amends. Those things happen. Strange occurrences take place. But that I am absolutely, just like I forced myself to sit down at my kitchen table and write my 4-step, I'm actually supposed to force myself to go out and leave my automobile in the front of someone's house and go knock on their door. Like, it's the same effort. Right? And it's the same piece of pie, right? It's not periods here, it's hyphens. 4 through 9 is all hyphenated, right? So as I go out as aggressively as I can to make these amends, to make it an actual part of my life instead of some whimsical thing, that some chance meeting somewhere, that it's a couple of grins, sorry. But, you know, we can do that to ourselves, right? When we go out assertively to make these amends, they take innumerable forms. Like, they're crazy, and how awesome they are is just unbelievable. I want to tell a couple of amends stories, but I also, before I do that, I want to chat about a couple things. Number one is, what about the people we cannot find? That's a good question, right? So here's my 8th step, right? And I got, I don't know, Jerry McGillicuddy. I can never find that guy. He seems to always be around, but I never know who he is, right? Jerry McGillicuddy. I'm looking around for Jerry McGillicuddy. I can't find him anywhere. And what I did to Jerry McGillicuddy, I'm just making this up, I stole, I don't know, $100. Say I stole $100 from Jerry McGillicuddy. And I'm ready to make these amends to Jerry McGillicuddy. And I call some old friends and nobody knows where Jerry's at. And I look on Facebook and whatever I can do to find Jerry McGillicuddy, it's all, everything's a dead end. Right? The point of the 8th step is that I'm willing to do it. The 9th step reiterates that. The 9th step reiterates that principle that as long as I'm willing to make the amend, that's the heart change I'm looking for. So what I was encouraged to do is find a surrogate Jerry McGillicuddy. Like if you really wanted to find Jerry McGillicuddy and God really wanted him to get that money right then, and this money is earmarked for Jerry McGillicuddy, give it to somebody else. Right? Go find a church plate somewhere. Go find a homeless shelter somewhere. Go find somebody who needs it. Right? Start buying big books for newcomers. Like there's a million things you can do. And if you're supposed to find Jerry McGillicuddy, if you've honestly looked for him and you cannot find him, don't not make the amend. Make it somewhere else. Ask God to open your eyes as to where that could be made. Don't use it as a dodge. Find McGillicuddy if you can. Right? But if the phantom is gone and you can't find him, make it somewhere else. Don't not make it. I sponsor one guy, and he was an absolute career criminal. I'm not talking about petty stuff. I mean absolute felony, multiple felonies every weekend for decades. Not making that up. He can't even begin to remember half the crap he did. Right? From beating the living hell out of people, almost dying in the curb, to armed robbery, he can't remember half the stuff he did. So what does he do? Just to carry the burden? Unacceptable. Carrying the burden doesn't open up the freedom that we're looking for. Right? So I'll tell you what he did. He went around to places he wasn't even sure he stole from. And he's like, I don't know if I stole from you or not, but I stole from somebody like you. What can I do? And some people were like, you can leave, because that's just weird. Right? But I'll tell you, there was a lot of plates in his church that got a little extra money here and there. And when one of the people in Alcoholics Anonymous needed rent money, he was there to surely open up his wallet for them. And when somebody in his church needed some medical assistance, he was certainly opening up his wallet to help them. Right? So the idea that I can't find this person so I don't have to make that amend is not the heart change we're looking for. Right? Provided you can find the people, make it to the people. If you can't find the people, make it to someone else. And if the people are supposed to be in your life, they will show up. As long as you're looking. Can't find them when you're looking, make it to somebody else. Another thing, sometimes people ask, there's people who have passed away. How do I make amends for that? You know, I know where they're buried, but that's all I know. Well, my father was one of those people. My dad was an incredibly honorable man. I struggled with honor and anything close to it. And I don't know how you managed to carry that guilt. I did it terribly. I didn't know how to carry that guilt. So I went to my sponsor and I had a conversation with him, and he said, write an honest letter and go to his gravesite and read it. And I wrote, I don't know, a couple of page letter, maybe 2.5 pages. I don't remember really. A couple of pages. And I told my dad I was sorry for living opposite of what he taught me. Right? Instead of reflecting the character that my father tried to display in his personal life, I displayed trash. And I took his legacy and I dishonored it. And so I went to this gravesite in Chicago, St. Mary's Seminary, 87th and Pulaski, and I walked in there, I went up to his grave, and I read this letter to him. And truthfully, for someone who might have been standing there watching, nothing happened. Because there was the sky didn't open, nothing fantastic happened. But I got to tell you, something deeply happened to me inside. I somehow knew, and still know today, that in spite of all that stuff, my dad still loved me. I didn't know that before that letter. I mean, maybe I would have passed it on a test because you feel obligated to say that he probably does. But I experienced something when I did that. And what happened is the 8th and 9th step became alive to me when I began to experience those things inside of me that I couldn't manufacture on my own by just not drinking. When I went to people that I had said terrible things to and told them that I knew what it was like to have terrible things said to me, and that I was sorry and they didn't deserve those words that I threw and vomited up on them. Something happened to me on the inside. I can't really explain that. There's odd tentacles to these things. When I made amends to my mom, my marriage improved. Answer me that one. The more respect I have for my wife, the better I treat my sister. Answer me that one. The more dignified I try to portray my life in front of my wife and to my wife, the less often I have wandering eyes when I'm going through the mall. Answer me that one. Like, I don't know how they're all tied together. I'm just telling you that they are. In my experience, I've been in Alcoholics Anonymous for 27 years. That's some long to some and it's short to others. Doesn't matter. I can tell you this is my experience, though. For almost all the men that I sponsor and all the men around the country that I've bumped into that have had financial problems, those are the guys who have not made serious financial amends, period, end of discussion. The guys that I run into that have significant, reoccurring, chronic sexual problems have not made amends for the women in high school that they hurt, or in college, or wherever that was. Or they're just so bitter at the ex, right? It's funny, right, that the resentment tentacles can lead to goofy behavior unattached, seemingly, to the person we resent. And that amends do the same thing. When we make it right with the people we resent or struggle with all this cleans up over here, right? Amends and resentments, amends and fears, amends and wrongs to others both have tentacles. You just get to pick your tentacles. If you got an issue in your life, seriously, whatever that happens to be, I got them in mine. We all got them. I'm telling you, there's some tentacle I haven't identified yet. And when I figure it out, I'll let you know. But whatever that is attached to something that's unresolved and unfixed and I have not taken responsibility for it if it's haunting me. And the guys I sponsor in this world, absolutely, in this world of AA, absolutely the same thing. Absolutely the same thing. And I have all kinds of guys that I sponsor. I mean, just all kinds of guys. And it's almost consistent to a man that if there's something that they're biting their mouth on, some hook out there, right, that looks beautiful right in front of them, they're biting on that hook. There's some unresolved or unmade amends somewhere in their past that's similar to the very thing they're attracting. It's just 100% true in my life. It doesn't need to be there. It doesn't need to be there. I had $40,000 in credit card debt. I hadn't paid a dime to the IRS. I hadn't filed federal income tax in 3 or 4 years prior to coming to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I couldn't go to the mall without spending $100. Sometimes I didn't have any money to pay these people back. Like, I had no money. That's a problem. Large debt. Doesn't matter the income level, right? If the debt exceeds the income, if the outgo exceeds the income, I'm in trouble, right? And when I just started making $5 amends because I didn't have the $45,000, you know, it's weird. Money showed up. Something I wasn't as hungry as I was to go out to eat 21 times a week, right? I don't know why, just wasn't. I know I look like it, but that's not the point. Suddenly things began to change in ways that I can't describe other than this actually happened. And that's what's beautiful about the terminology in the Big Book. It says that it's your spiritual awakening. It's your spiritual experience. And when we get up here and we talk about things, I'm to share with you my personal experience, not theory. And then you get to decide whether you believe that or not. I had one guy that I didn't sponsor him. He's a good buddy of mine. And it's funny how all these things kind of work out. I sponsored him for about 10 years and he kept drinking. He'd only get about 6 or 8 months and he'd go back and drink. Sometimes for a couple months, sometimes for a couple of years, but he'd always come back. And we get to this spot, boom, and there was one amend. One amend. And he would not make it. Would not make it. Would not make it. He was, and I have his permission to tell this story. I'm not going to give his name because that's nobody's business but his. But I have permission to tell this story. And I love this story because I experienced it. I was involved in it. I was there. He was driving home. He'd take side streets home from the bar. A couple reasons. Number one, they were relatively well lit with street lights. He could never really get up super speed on those side streets, so he's always driving slow. And he felt he drove better when he was drunk. Anybody ever kind of feel that way? I know I did. Yeah. So he's driving down this side street, and a little 7 or 8 year old kid comes out on his bike right in front of him. Probably would have hit him whether he was drinking or not. Young boy flies off the bike, hits his head on the curb, dies instantly. Cuts his head open, dies instantly. My friend pulls over. He's not going fast. Now, don't think he's racing crazily down the street. That's not it at all. He is controlled, drunk, but controlled, 2 hands on the wheel, wide awake, knowing he needs to do this to just stay focused. And this young little boy comes between 2 cars, bounces off his car, hits his head on the curb, and dies nearly instantly. Pulls over, weeping next to the kid. Police were there. Police knew he was drunk. This is many years ago. Today he'd be in cuffs, no question about it. Back then they said they saw how broken up he was by this. He admitted everything. Got a ticket or 2 for sure. Cop didn't arrest him for Dewey, right? He carried tremendous guilt that he didn't get arrested. Hated himself for decades because he didn't get arrested. He didn't get tried for vehicular manslaughter, nothing. Hated himself over this deal. And every time we get to this spot, he'd drink. Every time we get to this spot, he'd drink. So one day I'm at home and I hear, and I go to the front door and it's him. And he's on my doorstep and he's bawling. And I know exactly what it is. And he comes in and we talk about it for a few minutes. He's like, I got to do this, but I don't want to do this. And I said, well, do it anyway. He's like, well, when should I do it? And I'm like, I can't really think of a better time other than like, I don't know, right now. I mean, when are you going to be more motivated than you are right now? Oh, I don't know. He needed to talk to the parents. He felt. So he decides he's going to go do it. I said, come back over when you're done. I want to hear about it. I mean, this has been part of our life for many years, right? Probably 10 years, the story. I've heard this story back and forth. So he goes and makes the amend. He comes back to the house. And he's honestly, I'm telling you, he physically looked different on my porch. Just telling you. He opens the door. He comes in. He gives me a big hug, and he starts telling me this story. He knocked on this guy's door. This guy opens the door, and he said, sir, I don't know if you know who I am. The guy says, I know who you are. Come on in. So my friend goes in. They have a nice conversation for a few minutes, and he says, I really got to tell you, I'm sorry about your son. I mean, I don't even know how you make this right. I mean, I don't have any idea. How can you possibly ever make this right? And the dad said, don't do that to yourself. Like, don't do that to yourself. He said, I want to tell you I was drunk that day and I didn't get arrested. You know, Dad says, oh, well, here's what it is, I guess. Something sort of passively toward the guy. Didn't yell at him, scream at him, anything, just very passively about sort of received the information passively. And my friend was like, this is where he thought, was sure the swing was going to come, right? None of it. He says, where's your wife? He says, my wife died a little while ago. He says, I can't believe you're here today. Like, this is unbelievable that you're doing this. This is incredible. He said, I just can't believe you're here today. Anyways, they continue to talk. He kept using that phrase, here today, here today, here today. Can't believe you're here today. And my friend finally says, what? You've said that a few times, like I'm feeling like there's something special about today. What is it? He said, it's my son's birthday. And before you came over, I was thinking about him, right? He said, I just can't believe how much I appreciate you showing up today. Okay? My friend has not hit a drink since. And that's got to be 12 years. Right? And another friend, we were both sponsored by this guy, Keith Lewis. And he was a thief. Like he would get these jobs as like a carpet cleaner, and he'd get into people's houses, and he'd see what kind of stuff they had around. And he'd make a list when he'd get back to the truck, write the address down. He'd wait 2 or 3 weeks, cross some separation between the guy coming into the house and the theft, and he'd go in and look at his split, he'd clean him up, and he'd be out because he knew where everything was. Goes to jail for robbery, gets out, starts working the program inside the walls. He gets out, in his first week or two out of prison, he's being told to go make amends, right? He goes out there and he starts making amends, knocking on these people's door. And one day this guy opens the door and he's like, were you here 10 years ago or whatever? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I think I stole some jewelry from you. And the guy turned as white as Joe's sweatshirt. He said, what? He said, yeah, I stole some jewelry out of him, a drug addict and alcoholic. And he said, what I do is I clean carpets and I'd write that. He told him the whole story. He said, you gotta tell this to my wife. Okay. Picks up the phone. He calls his wife. The wife races home. He's there like 20 minutes. The wife finally comes in. What's going on? You got to hear what this kid has to say. Not a kid. This young man has to say. Tells him the story. Tells the wife the story. The wife immediately breaks into tears and she's sobbing, like convulsing sobbing. And he's like, I'm really sorry about the jewelry, you know? And I'll pay it back somehow. I don't have any money, but I'm standing before you telling you this is what happened. And no. We don't want your money. We don't want your money. It turns out that their son was a drug addict. And at that time in their life, they had let their son move back into the house for the umpteenth time and made a decision that if anything ever got stolen again, they'd never talk to their son again. That was 12 years prior. And of course, since there was separation between the carpet cleaning and the actual crime, they hadn't talked to their son, kicked their son out of their life, and hadn't talked to their son for 12 years over this crime that this other guy had done. Right? So this guy gets to sit on the couch and he gets to watch the mother and father call their son after 12 years because the son denied it. He was sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. Right? He gets to sit. This is the criminal. Gets the gift of sitting there and watching the husband and the wife call the son that they hadn't talked to in 12 years. And the son comes over with the guy there. And they're hugging and they're kissing and they're falling all over each other. And the parents are apologizing and all the rest of it. And the kids just mea culpa and everything. Don't worry about it, mom and dad. How would you know? Blah, blah, blah. I'm just glad to be back in your life. And this criminal gets to sit there and watch this. And he said, I was afraid they'd turn me in. And I got this. We have no idea how these are going to go. We have no idea how these are going to go. And we have no idea the experiences of how these things will unfold. We really don't. There's a young man in the program that I sponsor. And he recently made amends to a young lady. And it touched her. Touched her in such a way that after the amends, she thanked him. Took time out of her life to write a thank you note. You kidding me? Our book says 9 times out of 10, the unexpected happens. I got to tell you, they're way underselling that. Way underselling that. There's something beautiful about this part, and I'll close with this. I could tell you tons of stories, right? I mean, throwing beer bottles at a priest and how gracious he was to me when he forgave me, and just so many things that I've done in my life, right? There's one particular gal that I was very selfish with in high school. And I made amends to her as best I could when I first got in the program and went through the process. And one day I was in Indianapolis and I just felt in my heart like I needed to do more, and I don't know how to do more other than just restate what I felt like I needed to state, or what I had already stated to her, which was that I was dreadfully regretful about how I treated her, because human beings shouldn't be treated like that. So I went trying to find her phone number. I looked around on Facebook a little bit and I couldn't find her. And then finally, through another friend, mutual friend of ours, I did find her page, and she had passed away about a month before this. I don't know how you make amends for that. So, I mean, I'm in Sioux Falls. She's in Oak Forest, Illinois, and then moved to Muncie, Indiana. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it would have been really cool to like leave my job in Indianapolis for the day and drive to Muncie, but that's not practical. So I hit my knees and I just started praying that God would show me something to do, something to say, some way I could do this and get it off my chest and feel at least like I was trying to make this better than I had before. As well-intentioned as I was before. But these things crop up again. And the only thing I got was just do some fasting. Just do some fasting. So I went about a week and I took some things out of my life that I normally practice. And I just fasted for her, wherever her soul was with God. And I don't know if it meant anything to her at all. I can't tell you if it did or not because I can't ask her. But I got to tell you, something happened to me. Something happened to me. And now when her mind crops up, when she comes into my mind again, I ask my God to go put his arms around her and just whisper in her ear that I'm sorry. And make sure that she knows, God, that you love her wherever she's at. Now, again, I don't know if that does anything. I can't tell you that that's how it all works in the economy of heaven and the afterlife. I don't know those answers. But I know that those moments change me. And I know that I ran from those moments when I was drinking, and I ran to the bottle. And I ran to ego, and I ran to pretending like I wasn't bothered or concerned with other people. I don't know why I acted that way, but that was not me. This is me. And there's freedom in that. Alcoholics Anonymous is not about sobriety alone. Alcoholics Anonymous is about a liberation of soul, a freedom of spirit, a means of living and experiencing a God who made us in the moment so that we can be filled up with him and bring him to other people. That's what Alcoholics Anonymous is about. And anything shy of that is a Thursday morning when I didn't drink Wednesday night. That's it. Because I'm going to be just as sober that Thursday morning if I didn't drink Wednesday night as I will be tomorrow. AA has to give me more than just not drinking, because something is dreadfully broken within me that is so far larger than just being unable to control my intake of alcohol. I have a crushed spirit, and unless God puts it back together, it's never getting back together. And I'm going to shove everything I can in here to numb it, to neutralize it, to placate it, to pretend it doesn't exist, to walk around like I'm cool, whatever it is. I got to get that fixed. And it isn't individual pieces of the pizza that fix it. It's the whole pie. It is the process of 4 through 9 that we replicate in 10 and 11 that fills us so that we're motivated to go do 12. That's it. That's it. I appreciate being able to talk tonight. I really do. And look, I don't know if any of this helps, right? May not. But we hope it does at the Treasure Map Group. We really do. And we hope that people don't just leave comforted or appreciate the speakers like Megan and Joe from a couple of weeks ago. Or even, farther back, some of the great talks we've had. Dale gave a great talk, right? I mean, we hope that the talks do more than just comfort us in the moment, although that's a great relief and we'll take it. We hope it does something significantly more than that. That the talks will encourage you to pick up the book with a sponsor. Maybe go to our website and do a big book study with the 2 guys you sponsor, or 2 of your friends in AA, or whatever it is. I don't know. And maybe that helps, maybe it doesn't. But do something more than just sit in a meeting and go, I can relate, I can relate, I can relate, I can relate. Okay, we're past relating. Right? I got a couple of yeses out there. That's good. Can I get an amen, brother? Can I get it? I don't want that. I'm just saying, right? We have to do more than just relate. We have to do. This is an action-based program. And when we take those actions, God shows up. And he fills us. And when he fills us, we absolutely think differently about life and the people that he put in our life than we did before it. And when I'm full, I got enough. And when I got enough, I got plenty to share. And from a taker and a thief to a sharer, that's a hell of a long way from just sobriety. God bless you all. Thanks for being a part of the Treasure Map Group. Next week we're here again. Right? And Pete, why don't you come up and lead us in the Lord's Prayer there, man?
All right, and everybody can stand for the Lord's Prayer. Whose Father?
Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Keep coming back, it works, it's working.